How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the homestead. Today we're going to be talking about my falling gear, aka the gear that I use when I cut down trees. This is just going to be like a 10,000 foot overview, so if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them down below in the comments. This is also not really an exhaustive list. This is just everything that I could think of. And also, this is mainly going to pertain to the West Coast where I am cutting trees. So if you're on the East Coast or on the other side of the globe, things may be a little bit different for you, but use this as a jumping off point. Like I say, this is not the ideal kit. This is just my kit. Let's flip the camera around and get going. So here's all the gear. We're obviously going to start out talking about the chainsaws. Now, when you're going to work, I recommend that you have at least 2 saws. Reason being, if one goes down, you got a backup. Even better if you have 3 saws going into work. Now on those saws, a couple things to look out for. Number 1, have some dogs on it. Don't run a saw if it doesn't have dogs. It's just a pain in the ass. Number 2, bar and chain combo. Obviously you want to match it to the power head, don't get me wrong. But generally speaking, I like to have a bar and chain combo that's a little bit bigger than the majority of trees I'm going to be cutting, than the average, let's say. Since the majority of trees I cut are about 18 to 20 inches, give or take, a 32-inch bar is never going to be underpowered. Neither is a 28-inch bar. Now they're going to come in very handy being so long when it comes to limbing the tree, as well as bucking it up. So that's why I got the longer bars. The other reason why I have the longer bars, this is just kind of a pro tip, if you will. Some bar and chain combos balance better with different power heads. This 32-inch light bar with the full skip I got on there, balance is nearly perfect. Same with the 28-inch light bar and the full comp that I have on the 461. It's just nearly perfect with the balance. And having a balanced saw when you're working in the woods, that's a luxury, I'll tell you what. Now this isn't something that you necessarily need, but again, personal preference. On the saw, I highly recommend that you have a full wrap handlebar. That just makes things a lot easier whenever you're working around the tree. It's not just for working out of position. It's just, again, makes things a lot easier. A couple other things. Get a scabbard for the saw. It doesn't have to fit all the way. You could see how this one wouldn't go completely down the bar. There's 2 reasons for that. Number 1, when you're packing in your saw and you have the bar slung over your shoulder, you're not going to get cut by the teeth. Number 2, the teeth aren't going to poke holes in your gas can or your oil jug. Ask me how I know about that. Also, keep at least 1 spare chain as well as a spare bar. This is just, again, personal preference. You could definitely get away with just 1 spare chain, but would recommend having at least a spare chain and a spare bar because, again, things happen, just good to have a little bit of contingency planning. Now, moving on from the saws, you gotta be able to fuel them up and you gotta keep them oiled. So, have a dedicated chainsaw gas can. Make sure that you keep fresh fuel in it. I recommend don't let it set past 4 months. And if you're doing this professionally, there's no way you're gonna let it set longer than 4 months. Get a good 2-stroke oil. You can use the stock steel stuff. The Husqvarna stuff is crap. Stay away from it and don't touch it with a 100-foot pole. I like Formula K2 mixed 40-to-1. Personal preference. There's a couple different reasons for that, but we're not going to get into it. Bar oil. Make sure you have enough and top it off every single time you fill up the gas in your saw. Don't let it run out. You also want to remember, keep the files on hand for filing your chain, both the round file as well as a flat file. Also, keep a scrunch on hand. You never know when that chain's just going to be a little bit too loose and you got to tighten it up. Or even worse, you got to put a new bar and or chain on. The next thing that you're going to be looking at is a harness system or just a really heavy duty belt. I see a lot of people skipping the harness and just running a belt, as well as like the Key Logger jeans. They have more than enough pockets for all your wedges. You also need an axe. I recommend at least 3.5 pounds. 4 pounds is pretty much ideal. 5 pounds if you're over on the coast and you're knocking over those big ass fir trees I see. I like this 4-pound. It's a Warren Axe and Tool Co. Restored it. Doesn't have a razor edge on it, but it'll definitely cut me. I keep it on a rafter handle. All of my wedge bangers are on rafters except for one that I got from Wyoming Axe and Saw, and that's just because I got it from Wyoming Axe and Saw. I like the 28-inch rafter handles, personal preference once again. On your faller belt, if you do decide to go that route, this is made by Grizzly Peak in Idaho nonetheless. Definitely recommend that you go and support them. They make a couple different size wedge pouches. That's the size of mine, and it'll hold 2 7.5s or 3, I think it's 10.5s from the K&H, or as well as 3 12 inches as well. So definitely good to have. Always have extra wedges too. I don't have all the wedges that I would keep on hand. I would recommend like at least 5. Now there's days that I've only run 3 and have been okay, but again, the more wedges you have, the less bad scenarios you're gonna run into. Just plain and simple, the less times you're gonna run out of wedges. So axe to pound the wedges, enough wedges to wedge the tree. You also want to have, obviously, a logging tape. I like the Spencer tapes, Husqvarna tapes. I've heard good things from those. I also recommend, if you're running the harness, keep a logging crayon so that you can mark trees. Also, for your flat file, keep a raker gauge. This is the West Coast Saw one. And then also, tourniquet. This, if you are going to be one of the people that forgoes the chaps, which we're going to talk about here in a second, I don't recommend you do that, but if you do, keep at least 1 tourniquet on you and figure out how to put it on fast and keep it set up for one-handed application. You can see that this has rid in my belt a little bit, got a little bit of bleaching in there, but nevertheless, you just have to have at least 1 tourniquet on you when you're working with a chainsaw. And if you're doing it professionally, when you're getting fatigued, you're working all day, and if there's a chance that you're, again, not going to be wearing chaps, which, wear your chaps, ladies and gentlemen. Keep at least 1 of these on hand. Figure out how to put it on quick, and keep it set up for one-handed application. I have a video on that, and I will link it down below. And I have that riding in this tourniquet holder set up with a tech lock. Just got it off Amazon, super cheap. Also, a whistle. I work solo, and so this is probably not needed. It's really fucking stupid, just plain and simple, to work solo in the woods. But this is just on the off chance that I do have someone out with me, or a neighboring property owner, however you want to put it, that may be nearby if I get hurt or something happens. Keep a whistle on you. Cell phone service is kind of spotty sometimes in the woods, so, you know, whistle. And then more safety stuff. This isn't safety, but keep a screwdriver for your carburetor. You want to keep your saws running well. Different conditions will warrant different tuning. Get a hard hat. I recommend aluminum hard hats. This is a Skull Bucket. This was the first hard hat I've ever gotten. You can see it's not too beat up. I got a couple good dings in her. I definitely recommend that you get an aluminum hard hat and stay away from the plastic ones. Biggest reason is if you get a good knock like that guy there, your plastic hard hat's pretty much done, or at least it's gonna be if it cracks. The aluminum, probably not gonna crack, just gonna dent, and unless it's a really bad hit, toss it on, keep on working. If you are afraid of limbs hitting you in the head, don't be a logger. Chaps, like I say, wear them. I see a lot of people not wearing them, and there's days, I'll admit it, that I don't wear my chaps, but usually it's not a full day. I'm only out there for an hour. Yeah, I'm making excuses. Wear your chaps. Don't make excuses for it. Inside your chaps, keep another tourniquet. You got 2 legs. There's a chance both of them get cut. Keep 2 tourniquets. Have it set up for one-handed application. Once again, video link down below. Last but not least, cotton gloves. I recommend the White Ox gloves with the elastic band. Again, personal preference. I have had on, I haven't ran the like non-name brand gloves that you could just get in like a pack of a dozen. I haven't run them, but they felt fine. I just prefer the authentic White Ox. They're sturdy. I've got a hole punched in this one, but I have, I don't know, like 5-6 pair of these. And you can see this is a mismatched pair, but they work. I prefer to only have my left hand gloved and my right glove inside my pocket. And that's because when I'm gripping the pistol grip or throttle, however you want to put it, on the chainsaw, it just is not comfortable to have my glove, to have my hand gloved. So this is why this one's more worn than that one, but still recommend that you get a set of gloves. I sometimes work without any gloves, but it's just it's smart, especially these tapes. They're sharp, believe it or not. Ask me how I know, similar to the gas can. So there you go. That more or less covers the falling gear that I use on a day-to-day basis. With that, you guys, that about covers everything. Like I said, not an exhaustive list, not the best list. This is just my list. So if you have any questions, leave them down below in the comments. If you enjoyed, please like the video, subscribe if you haven't done so already, and share the video with someone you think also might enjoy it. With that, you guys, thank you for watching. Think for yourself, shoot straight, and I will see you next time.